How to create an object? Tell fast.
Flower
braces, keys and values.
Okay. We'll just give the name of the variable and we will give the flower braces and the key and the values. Okay. Now age 24. Okay. Now what I'm doing, this is imagine object 1. Okay. And I am doing object 2 and I am assigning the values of object 1. Okay. Now what I am trying to do, I am changing object 2 dot name, okay, equal to sweetie. Okay. And let me just do console.log of object 2, okay, and console.log of object 1 as well. Now what will be printed? You understood, right, what I have done in this code? Just unmute yourself and talk.
I think it's sweetie.
It will be. Now, what will be printed on this console log? What will be printed? What did I write?
Sweetie.
What's happening here? Just sweetie will be printed. What I am giving in the console log?
Object 1 and 2.
Okay, what is object 1?
Anusha and 24.
Anusha and age 24.
I mean to say this complete object. Am I correct?
Yes,
Yes.
miss.
Okay. You are telling object 2 and object 1 will be printed. Okay. Now what will be
Yes.
printed in the object 2?
Sweetie.
Okay. What will be printed in object 1? Whether it will print sweetie alone or this entire object updated with sweetie.
Entire object.
Entire object.
Entire object updated with sweetie. Am I correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
What will be, this will be printing object 1. What will be printed here?
24.
What about name? Am I printing object dot age or the entire object?
Entire object.
The entire object.
What will be printed? Sorry? Tell what will be printed.
The entire object of 1.
Entire object of 1. You mean to say that name Anusha and age 24 will be printed. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes, I think.
Why? You are seeing the object 1, right? Even object 1 name changed. Why?
Because object is equal to object 1.
Why? Are they storing the address or they storing the entire object? This object 2, is it storing the address of the object or is it
They're storing the address.
Address of the object.
Then why you people didn't tell it starting? Why you told after executing? Huh? Non-primitive data types, objects and arrays will be stored by reference, and even if we change one object, it will reflect in another object. Whether we can use spread operator here? So in case of arrays, for creating a new memory location and assigning a different memory for the other variable, what we have done, we have used spread operator with braces. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Whether the spread operator will work here?
No, it is not.
Why? Why it won't work?
Because it's not array.
Yes, Spread operator only works for array but not for objects. Okay. In this case, what we can do, we need to use two functions basically. One is json.parse, okay, and another one is json.stringify. So these method, what they will do, this JavaScript JSON.stringify will convert this JavaScript object, okay, to JSON strings and JSON keys and JSON values. Okay, and this JSON parse method is used for passing over it and creating a new memory space. Okay, so in order to create a new memory space for the objects, we use JSON.parse of JSON.stringify. Okay, if you do, let object equal to JSON dot pass of, okay, JSON dot stringify of object one, this entire statement will allocate a new memory space. Okay, and that new memory space address will be stored in the object 2, and even if we are changing the values in the object 2, it will not reflect in object 1. Okay, let me just run it. Any doubts, anyone?
No.
Okay, but imagine my object is containing one key. Okay, print details. Okay, it is the key and its value is function. Are you understanding what I'm trying to tell? What is the keys here? What are the keys available in the object one?
Name, comma,
Name,
age.
age. Printed.
Name, age, and print details. What are the values here in the object one?
Anusha 24
Anusha
function.
24 function.
So if we are trying, if we click object dot print details, what will be printed? This entire print function will be printed. Am I correct? In this
Yeah, print
case,
detail.
JSON.parse of JSON.stringify fails. Okay, what it will do? You can see it, right? You can see the object 2 whether print details is present. You are understanding, right? In object 1, I have created print details and the value as function. Okay, and I have created one more object, object 2, and assigned the value of object 1. Now what I am doing, I am doing the console.log of object 2, and this is what it's printed. It didn't copy this print details and functions. Am I correct?
Yes.
Anusha.
So in this case, what happens? Even this method fails for copying. The entire object is not getting copied. Okay, so this is known as shallow copy, means partially copying the objects is called shallow copy. Deep copying means exactly copying everything of object 1 to object 2 is called deep copying. In order to achieve deep copying, we have one library called Lodash. Okay, it provides one method called clone deep. Okay, which is used for cloning the exact things. Okay, this is used for cloning. What you will do, you will just give clone deep of object 1. Okay, and yeah. So the entire objects will get copied. Okay, but I cannot run it here because we need to import that Lodash functions and all. Okay, but this method is useful for achieving the deep clone, which is from Lodash library. Any doubt?
No, Anusha.
Let me just stop the recording, or what should I do? I actually wanted to show you when the session, at the last of the session, I will show in my project. Okay. So this method is used. Okay. Now, let me tell about three important functions. Okay, in every interview, they will ask. Even the shadow copy and deep copy are very important concepts they will be asking in interviews. Okay, and you need to know about three functions which are call, apply, and bind methods. Okay, and these are usually applied on objects. These three methods. Okay, suppose you have this object. Suppose if you want to invoke this function print details, how can you do it?
We can directly like
Mhm.
write the name of the function and with braces object dot
Object one dot print details
the name.
key and the braces. It will directly invoke the function. Okay, let me just show you print details function. Okay, for example, I have name here as first name. Okay, then the last name. Okay, and what does this print detail do? It just do console of this dot first name. Okay, and this dot last name. So what is the meaning of this keyword here means refer to this object. That is the meaning. In this object, whatever there is the first name, refer to this object. That is the meaning. Okay. Now, you know, you will invoke like this and it will print you Anusha and the name. Okay. Suppose if you want to create one more object and that object also has this print details function, and what we are doing again, we are doing first name, last name. One more object again, first name, last name. In this way, what we are writing, we are writing some redundant piece of code, right? This print details function is repeated everywhere. Am I correct? So it's a bad way of doing, right? Everything repeated should not be written. Okay, it can be utilized only once. Suppose if you want, what we can do, that's why we will keep the functions outside. Okay, and for this function we will apply our object. Okay, so how can we do that? Using call, apply, and bind methods. Okay, let me first explain you what is call method. Okay, suppose if you want to apply uh, print details for this object, how can you do it? You just need to know the name of the method, which is print details dot call. Okay, and what is the name of the object? Object one you need to pass here. Okay, so what it will do, you are passing object one to this print details function, so this will be pointing to this object one. Okay, now if you just do console.log, now if I just call this function, what will happen? The first name and the last name will be printed. Okay, suppose let me create one more object, object 2. Okay, and let us have uh, first name Sweetie and second name Sweet. Okay, now, if I want to call the call function, if I want to apply this print details functions for this object, what should I do?
Into details dot
Print
call
details dot
object
call
to
object to
Print details dot call of
object to.
object two. In this case, okay, this will point to the second object. Okay, and you can check Sweetie Sweet. Okay, suppose if your function is receiving some params, which means that place. Okay, now I will just do place. Okay, now what will be printed in the console log for the first statement? For the
Undefined.
undefined. Tell me the entire console log, na? Tell me the entire console log. Does this print only undefined?
Anusha, comma K, comma undefined.
Anusha K and undefined.
Anusha, K, and undefined. Why? Because we haven't passed the value of place. Am I correct? Since
Yes.
we have When passed, what is the default value for any variable?
Undefined.
Undefined.
Fine
Okay.
will be
Now, what will be printed for the second object?
Sweetie, sweet, and
sweet,
Guntur.
sweet, Guntur.
Very good. Sweetie, sweet, and Guntur will be printed. Okay. Now, I will pass one more param. Okay. State. Okay. And I will pass AP. And here, I will access it state. Now, what will be printed for the second statement?
Sweet, sweet, Guntur.
AP.
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 What will be printed for the first statement?
Anusha,
K,
Anusha, K.
undefined.
and
Okay, undefined. Okay. Suppose it is the same case with apply function as well. Okay. Suppose if you are doing apply, how will you write? Print details. Okay. Dot apply. Okay. And to which object we should apply this function to? For the first object. That object name you will give it here. Okay. And you can see Anusha K undefined. Suppose if you want to pass some parameters, right? You will pass them in the form of array format. That is the only difference between this call and the apply function. Okay. For the first parameter, you will give it as Guntur. Okay. And the second parameter, you will give it as AB. The only difference is that here you will send in the form of an array. There you will send normally like a params. Any doubt?
No doubt, sir.
no.
All.
Okay. Now we will talk about bind function. Okay. The bind function, what it will do, the bind function will get binded to this object. Okay. And it should be invoked only at the later point of time if you want to invoke it. I'll just show you now. Okay. Print details dot bind of what is that? Suppose if I want to bind it for object one. Okay. Now, if you can see, nothing will get printed for this bind function. Why? Because this is just binding the function to this object. Okay. We need to assign it to some variable, suppose example ANS. And if you just do console.log of ANS. Okay. Now I'll show it. Let me do one thing. Let me just 1 minute. I will stop sharing. I will start sharing now. Sample1.js. Okay, now what I will do, I'll directly give that function code here. Okay. Okay, now I am printing ANS, right? Let me just show you. Yeah, you see the entire function got binded. So what this bind will do, it will bind this print details functions for this object. Okay. And that entire function will get saved in this variable. Suppose if you want to invoke it, how can you invoke? You can just invoke with ANS. Okay. And you can check the details will be printed. Anusha K, comma, undefined, comma, undefined. Give me 1 moment. Yeah. Any doubt?
Anisha, can you please like once more?
Yeah, the bind function will bind this function to one variable. That's it. So this object one, for this object one, this function will be binded and it will be assigned to this variable. And if you want to invoke it, you can invoke it at any point of time. That's the only difference.
Only we take ANS or any whatever we take.
Any variable name you can give, your wish.
Yeah, like A, B, anything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just a variable name and what you are accessing.
Yeah, yeah. Got it. Anisha.
What it will do, it will bind that function and it will assign to this variable and you can invoke it any point of time. Any doubt? So in
No
No.
case of call and apply,
No.
it's directly calling this function. Okay. But in case of bind, what it is doing, it's assigning this function to this variable. Okay. But that this will be pointing to only this object. Okay. Any doubts? Any doubts?
No, Anisha.
No.
Okay, and you can just directly pass the variables like this. You can Anusha K Guntur AP. No doubts, right? These they will ask you what's the difference between call, apply, and bind. You need to tell like if we have one function and if you want to apply that function to a different kinds of objects, we can do it by using call, apply, and bind methods. If you want to invoke the function using call method, then you will do function name dot call of object and it will print that that function will be binded to that particular object and it will print those values. If you want to apply invoke that function using apply, then you need to pass these arguments in the array format. Using the bind function, that entire function will get binded to that particular object and will be assigned to one variable, and you can invoke that variable whenever you want and you can get the desired result. Any doubt?
no doubts.
Okay.
No, Anisha.
Okay. This is about call, apply, and bind. Okay. Now I will talk about the scope chain. Okay. 1 second. We will talk about the scope chain. Okay. Let us have one variable, let A, okay, equal to 5. Okay. And let us have one function. Let us have one function ABC, and let us have one more variable A equal to 6. Whenever we are giving the square braces, right, it means that, flower braces, right, it's a different scope. Scope meaning I'll show you, okay? So a new execution context will be there, a new scope will be there, okay? And let me just do console.log of 6, okay? And no, this function again internally contains one more function and let A equal to 7. Now let me just do console.log of A. Okay. And let me just invoke this function AB. Okay. And I will invoke this function and I will invoke this function. Now what will be printed in the console log?
6 will be printed.
6.
7.
7 will be printed. Any more answers? Any more answers? Can someone tell me how this code will execute? Can someone tell me what's happening in this code? Talk something. I'm asking about code execution. Everybody is sleeping.
No.
How this code will execute? Just tell me what's happening from line number 1 to line number 13. What is happening in this? Tell. Just execution I asked. What is happening at this line? What is happening at this line? What is happening at this line? That's it I'm asking about.
At first line, we took a variable a equal to 5.
Okay, here we have declared one variable and we assigned with the value 5. Okay, then
Then we take a function keyword with the
okay,
name ABC.
okay, which means that we have declared one function here. Okay, now does this code will execute now? Does this code execute now? It will execute it as soon as it reaches the line number 2.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Why? Because it's a function declaration and it will not be executed. Okay. Next, what happens?
Yes. So, like we provided another value for a in the braces,
No, no.
like
This
in the
code not executed. Then what is the next
yes.
line?
So we are calling AB here
A, B,
after the
C,
curly
A,
brace.
A,
ABC.
B, C,
Yeah.
which means that I am invoking this function. Am I correct?
Function ABC. Yes, Anusha.
Now,
Yes.
what will happen whenever any function is invoked? A new execution context will be created. Am I correct?
Yes, Anusha.
Yes.
Then what happens?
We'll get the memory space and code of execution.
Okay. Now, what is happening from line number 3 to line number 8?
So we are again assigning one value to variable A.
Okay. We are again declaring one variable name A. Am I correct?
Yes, Anusha.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then,
Then we are again uh, writing one function statement AB.
okay. Very good.
Then again we are like allocating a new value for A.
Then we are invoking this function. You are missing the
Yeah, AB.
function.
Yeah, yes, Anusha.
Okay.
We are
Then,
we are invoking AB.
okay.
Then we are again
Then we are
coming to like
invoking a
Okay. We are invoking this function AB. Am I correct?
yes, Anusha.
Then,
yes.
Then we are again going to like A and allocating one value.
okay.
Yeah, and printing the value of A.
Now, what will be printed?
I think Anusha 7 will be
7.
printed.
Okay. Very good. Very good, Vishal and Teja. Fine.
Is 7 going to be printed,
Yeah,
Anusha?
it will print 7. Yes. Okay. So what happened? Whenever any JavaScript file is executing, a new execution context will be there and one call stack will be there. Am I correct? One call stack,
Yes.
one call stack, imagine, and this is one execution context. Okay. This is one execution context, and whenever any execution context is created, what will be there? It will be pushed to the call stack. Am I correct? Now there will be two things, which is memory phase and code of execution phase,
Code of
and
execution.
A will be there and allocated with the value undefined. Am I correct? Then what will contain? We will have the key as ABC, and we will be having the as it is function as a value. Am I correct?
Yes, Anusha.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, Anusha.
And this is the first execution context. Okay. And we have the line of execution phase where undefined will be replaced with 5. Am I correct?
Yes,
Undefined will
Anusha.
be replaced with 5. Okay. Then what's
Yes.
happening? Then we have again invoking one more function, ABC. Okay. Whenever we are invoking any function, what will happen? A new execution context will be created. Okay. And it will again contain the memory space, and it will again contain the code of execution phase. It is again allocating a memory for the variable A, and it's assigning the value 6, and it is creating one more function called AB, and as it is code will be written. Am I correct? And in the
Anusha.
line of execution phase, what will happen? A equal to 6 will be assigned. Okay, that means that instead of this undefined, 6 will be replaced. Okay, then what is happening? We are again invoking AB function, which means that imagine this is the second execution context, and second will get pushed. Am I correct? As soon as it's still now it's not done executing, and we are calling the AB function. Okay. Now, whenever this AB function is invoked, what happened? One more execution context is being created. Okay. And what will happen again? Memory space, and it will have the value A and 7. Okay. Now, what we are doing? We are doing the console.log in this code of line of execution phase. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what will be the value of A in this code of execution phase?
7.
That's
7.
why in the console 7 will be printed. Any doubt?
No, no, ma'am.
Let me just do one thing. I will remove this line. Okay. Now, what will be printed in the console?
6 will be
6.
6 will be printed. Very good. Why? Because even if this execution context didn't be there, this variable doesn't exist, right? This execution context will still contain the reference of the previous execution context. Okay. And this execution context will contain the reference of the previous execution context. Okay. Suppose if A is not there in this scope, what it will do? It will come to the reference of this execution context, and it will check whether the variable A is present or not. Suppose if it is present, then the 6 will be present. 6 will be printed. Okay. Even if this variable doesn't exist in this execution context, what will happen? It will contain reference to the previous execution context, and it will check the value of A. Suppose if value of A is present, then it will print 5. Suppose even here, if it is not present, then what will be there? Error will be there. Am I correct? Since we haven't declared A and we are trying to access it. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you see, let A equal to 6, okay, 6 will be printed. Suppose even if I remove this line, okay, now you can see what value will be printed?
5.
5 will be printed. Okay. Now, if you remove this line, now what will be printed?
Undefined.
Shows the method.
Error will be printed stating that A is not present or A is not defined. If we are not declaring any variable and if we are trying to access it, then it will give us this error not defined. Okay. Suppose if there is a variable and we haven't assigned any value, then it will give the value undefined. That is the difference between not defined and undefined. Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, Anusha.
Now let me do one thing. We have a variable, let a equal to 7 here. Okay. Instead of doing the console log here, what I will do, I will just do a console.log of here. Now what will be printed? You are understanding, right? I have commented this line of code. Okay. Now what will be printed?
7.
7 will be printed.
At first, it will be undefined.
It will be undefined. Vishal, I have the hope only on you. Tell me the correct answer.
Thinking, Anusha. I'll just give me some.
Okay. Just imagine the execution context and try to explain this. Okay. Whenever this, do you want to have some more time or shall I explain?
Should explain, Anusha.
Okay.
And
Okay. Whenever this file is executing, execution context will be there. Am I correct?
yes, Anusha.
Yes.
Does this file outer execution context contain any variables?
No.
Variable.
No. Outside, no variables, right?
Inside, Anusha.
Correct?
Yes.
Where are the
Yeah, yes.
variables? Have you declared any variable outside? No, no.
No, no.
No.
They were declared only in this function, which means that it will be available in the next execution context. Am I correct? So no variables
Yes,
is
Anusha.
there, only function is there. Am I correct? Now, what are you
Yes.
invoking this function before the line number 7?
No.
No, you are just declaring it. Okay. So
Yes.
when you reach line number 7, how many execution context will be there? When you reach line number 7, how many execution context will be there?
Uh, 1.
1. Okay. At line number 7, it is doing console.log of A. Whether variable
Yes.
A is present or whether any function named A is present?
No.
No. Now what will be printed?
Undefined.
Why undefined? If it is not present, what I said?
It
Not
shows
Not
error,
defined.
Ansha.
it shows
It
an
shows
error and
Not defined.
undefined is printed.
Not defined.
Okay.
Okay.
When it will become
Yes.
defined? When you invoke the function, okay. No, even at this point of time also, execution
It
context
will be not defined.
destroyed. Okay. And even at this point, you will become not defined. Suppose if we are
Yeah.
accessing this line, okay, at this point. Now what will be printed?
7.
7 will be printed. Okay. And let me give, let A equal to 6. Okay. Now what will be printed?
6.
6 will be printed.
Why 6? When an
And
execution context will finish, as soon as it encounters this flower brace, the execution
letters.
context will be destroyed, right?
Yes, Anusha.
Means that this will not be no longer present. Am I correct when you are printing this line
Yes.
number 7?
Yes, Anusha.
Now what will be printed?
Error.
7 will
Not
be
defined.
printed.
7, 7, it will be
Yes,
7.
Have this A right in this scope.
yeah, it is already defined as 7.
Nancy, are you confused? Shall I explain it once more?
Yes, Ansha.
Now you have invoked this function and you have this variable A7. Am I correct? which means to say this execution context. Okay, A7 is there. Okay, now what you are doing at line number 6, what you are doing again a new execution context is created. As soon as this flower braces has encountered, what will happen? This execution context no longer will be there. Okay, and you are having console.log of A, which means that this execution context is still there, right? When it will finish, when it reaches the line number 8, then it will finish. Am I correct?
Yes, Anusha.
Okay, now what will be printed?
7.
7 will be printed. Any doubts? Anyone? Kavya, Teja, Vishal, Jansi, Archana?
No doubt, ma'am.
It's clear, right? Just
Yes.
execute this once by your own, then you will understand. Okay, try to log a different console logs, then you will understand what is the values and all. Okay, and this is so this way of coming to the next execution context reference, coming to the next execution context, and this is known as scope chain. Okay, suppose if you are not finding the variable here, you are coming to the scope of the another execution context and you are finding the variable. Suppose if scope means the visible area for the variable for the functions, that is called scope. If you can I access a value in this particular scope or not? I can access. Suppose if it's not there, can I access A in this particular scope? No. Correct? If it is there, you can access. If it is not there, you cannot access. Scope means that only. Okay. So this way of going to references and checking the values and printing them is called scope chain. Any doubts, anyone?
No, Anusha.
No, ma'am.
And okay, I will tell about two interesting concepts called set interval and set timeout. Okay, basically, when we use timeout is for asynchronous programming. Okay, and suppose I have one function. So I'll directly tell set timeout. I don't remember the syntax. Set timeout. It's okay. Set timeout. Okay, this set timeout is used for asynchronous programming. What is synchronous programming? Executing everything line by line is called synchronous programming. Okay, asynchronous programming is not line by line, is known as asynchronous programming. Am I correct? Okay,
Yes, Anusha.
this set timeout will take one callback here. Okay, that callback you can give it arrow function or normal function, any function you can give. And what this function is doing, it is just logging console.log of hello. Okay, and when you want to execute this function, you want to execute this after 1 second. 1000 meaning 1 second, 2000 meaning 2 seconds, 3000 meaning 3 seconds. So basically milliseconds will be giving here. What will happen now? So this function will get executed. What is JavaScript? Executing everything in line by line. But in case of set timeout, what will happen? This function will be registered in the browser and will attach this timer to it. Okay, 1000. And after this 1000 has been expired, this function will start executing and it will print the console log for us. Okay, let me just do it. So set timeout means after this 1 second, print hello. That is the meaning. Okay, if I give 2 seconds, which means that after 2 seconds, this console log hello will be printed. Okay, if you give 3 seconds, okay, 3000, it meaning is that 3 seconds. Okay, it will print hello after 3 seconds. So basically set timeout and set intervals are used for asynchronous programming. You understood, right?
Yes, Anusha.
Yes, ma'am.
Suppose if you want some particular piece of code or function to be called repeatedly for every second. In that case, we have one beautiful function called set interval. Okay, set interval, which also takes one callback. Okay, for example, console.log of, it will print hi. Okay, and here you need to specify the timer, for example 1000. So what happens, for every 1 second, hello will be keep on printing. That is the meaning of set interval, which means that you are setting interval. For every 1 second, print this statement. Set timeout is after this much of time, execute this function. That is the meaning of set timeout. Okay. Now let me just show it. You're understanding, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Suppose if you give 2 seconds, what will happen?
It will
It will
print
print
after
high for every 2 seconds.
It
2
will
seconds.
bring a high for every 2 seconds. Okay. It became unresponsive. Okay, so that is the difference between set timeout and set interval. Now what you can do, you can even clear the interval. Okay, suppose I was setting some interval and what I'm doing console.log of high. Okay, and it's for every 1000 minutes, 1000 second, 1 second, and you can just give it some value. You can just even clear this interval using one function called clearInterval. Okay. And for this, what you need to do, you need to, what I will do, I will just time it out so that you can see it. Okay. Which is the meaning that you are first this set interval is there, and for every second what it will be printing high, and we have even kept set timeout. What will happen after 5 seconds, it will clear the interval for ANS. Okay, that's the difference. Set timeout. Invalid. Callback must be a function. So you see, so it will print for 5 times or 4 times. Why? Because I have given the interval after the 5th second, right? Suppose if I give 6, which means that it will be printed for every 1 second 5 times. At the 6th second, this interval is getting cleared. Any doubt? Now, how many times this console.log of high will be printed?
2 times.
What happens at the 3rd time?
It will clear the interval.
Will clear the interval. Any doubts, anyone now?
No,
What
no.
if we don't give that clear interval? Is there any limit for that?
If we do not give clear interval, no, it will be keep on triggering. For every 1 second, it will be keep on printing high. And the space will,
So there is no limit for that.
there is no limit. That's why it is called set interval. You are just setting the interval, that's it. If you want to clear it after a certain time, you need to use the clear interval. Any doubt?
No.
Okay. So just learn this set interval, set timeout, call, apply, bind, and shallow copying, deep copying in case of objects, and in case of the arrays, how it's gonna work. And what else I told?
Math min and math max. Math.min, math.
That I have told yesterday, right? Math.min and math.max. Yeah, learn and come back tomorrow, okay? Yeah, first topic itself, I showed shallow copying in deep copying. Then I told about the call, apply and bind. Then set intervals and clear intervals I have told. That's it, I guess.
Scope.
Yeah, scope chain also I have told. Okay. Learn this and come back for the next class. Okay.
Okay,
Or if
Anusha.
you want me
Okay,
to
ma'am.
tell one simple function, I can tell you right away. Do you want to or no?
You said you'll show something from your project.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me just stop recording. Okay. 1 second.